Hey everyone, welcome back to Draft of the Future. This is Ryan and Matt here. We have another exciting interview for you today. We have Erik Richards with the NBC All-American Bowl, who's here to talk to us about that game and the process of scouting. So without further ado, Erik, how you doing today?
Doing good, Ryan, Matt. No, I don't need any applause, Matt. You're not going to fire me up to run through a tunnel. I stay fired up anyway. Appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully we can give your listeners or whoever streams in and give them a little one piece. I often say, if I can learn one thing in any seminar, it was worth its time, right? So
Absolutely.
we'll see what we can get them.
Yeah, so first off, just into some of that general scouting stuff. As the national director of scouting, like there's obviously a lot that goes into that. So can you quickly like give us like a rundown of like your process when you start to scout a player?
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky enough with what was the U.S. Army All-American game for 18 years. NBC owned the property. Navy has just came on board the last 2 years. We're excited to have them as a partner. Adidas has been in as our apparel partner, since 2010. Games played annually down in San Antonio. I was lucky enough to be in a extremely talented county running their youth league and high school league as far as scheduling goes and everything like that. The demographics of Gwinnett County, Georgia, was producing the number one talent in America outside of Dade and Broward in the country as I was raising my kids. And we're talking way back in the late 80s, early 90s. And just kind of developed an eye for talent. Uh, Being in that league and seeing so many players that were going Division One, you got to say, okay, this guy's going to be a mid-major guy. This guy's going to be a Group 5 guy. This guy's going to be a Power 5 guy. Now I'm talking language that those were the conferences back then. Now we're Power 4 and Group 4 and FCS and FBS and everything else. But I kind of got lucky and developed an eye, and I've heard similar stories from people in Brazil, how they develop an eye for soccer players, or people in Russia, how they develop an eye for gymnastics stars. So, I was just in the right place at the right time with a county that was growing faster than any county in the country. Gwinnett County, it went from a population of 100,000 people to 1.2 million people in 10 years. With that, the Robert Condicis and all these kids were moving in. And so that's how I got my background of getting into scouting and recruiting. NBC came to me and they were asking around, well, where are all these players coming from? And most of the places they were going, they were hearing that, the one or two guys ranked in the top 10 were coming out of Gwinnett County, the schools of Beaufort and Parkview and Brookwood and North Gwinnett and Peachtree Ridge. And my name was just thrown around a little bit, and they hired me on the spot. Me and my partner, Steve Quinn, spun off a camp series out of it, because what was happening is you were getting these great big physical specimens that were coming down to the game, and they may have been the number one player in Minnesota. And I'm going to use Centrell Henderson, an offensive tackle for the Miami Hurricanes, later for the Minnesota Vikings, played in the NFL for several years. He was number one player in the country coming out of high school, and I want to say it was 2009, 2010. And he got on the big stage, and being 6'6", 300 pounds, he just dominated everybody in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. And then all of a sudden, he was matched up with a 6'5", 280-pound defensive end named Ronald Powell out of California, and he got exposed. And we're like, man, how can we fix this before they get on this stage? And kind of get them up. And that's where the camp series were in their infant steps in 2009. And we spun off FBU, Football University, to kind of bring the players in we were looking at, get them coached up by former NFL coaches or college coaches, and kind of fix their technique so that when they did go against somebody equally as talented as them, they didn't lose every rep. So hopefully that wasn't too long-winded, but I wanted to get you caught up of how I got into recruiting.
Okay. Yeah. So at this age group, some of those camps, it looked like you go all the way down to the middle school level, and even high schoolers. The players aren't fully developed. So when you're scouting these players, how do you take that into account? Is there like projection for their size, or what exactly goes into that when you're considering players?
Certain positions are easier to tell than other ones, like O lineman. It's hard to tell at 8th grade, right? Uh, uh, Sometimes linebackers hard to tell in technique camps where you're not hitting. Other positions, you can pretty much tell. We kind of hang our hat on. We've done pretty good at the quarterback position. I mean, we found Trevor Lawrence as a 7th grader and, kind of knowed him the second game come. We found Bryce Young. We found Caleb Williams. All those guys were as good as they, are now as 7th and 8th graders. So I think quarterback was a little bit easier position to tell. I think receiver is when the 7-on-7 kind of exploded. What did that do? It brought out, I can remember the days when I'd go to a high school game and if you saw one 6'5" wide receiver on your schedule across the course of a season, that was something. Now every team's got a 6'4", 6'5" wide receiver, right? And so I think 7-on-7 helped the basketball players come out of the gym. Those guys realized that, hey, I'm not going to the NBA at 6'4". And can't handle the rock, but I can go catch a football. And 7-on-7 allowed them to try it without putting on the pads and everything. And so the receiver position has gotten better and better with the coming from an athletic background. But like I said, like linebacker is extremely tough to tell because you're not hitting in camps. You really need to see them. A lot of times, real good linebackers are playing tailback or running back for their high school team. They're not even a linebacker, or if they are doing linebacker, they're playing it part-time. So you got to take it, look in your mind of, or Roquan Smith comes to mind. He was a tailback that played just a little bit of safety for his team. And you're like, wow, if he's 6'2" now and, he's 175, what if he were 6'2", 215? The way he runs, would he make a good a linebacker? Well, yeah, Roquan Smith made a good linebacker for sure. Sammy Brown, the kid freshman at Clemson or sophomore at Clemson now, very similar. He was a running back all the way through. Nobody really saw him play a whole lot of defense till his junior and senior year. And so there's certain positions that are harder, Ryan, to pinpoint, and lineman's one of them. A kid might be 6'4", 6'5", but he's only 190, 200 pounds his 8th grade, 9th grade year, right? Well, you got to know that down the road, he's going to put on 30 pounds here. He's going to put on another 30 when he gets to college and gets on their weight program and their training table and stuff. And so now that 6'5", 6'6" kid, if he grows an inch, is 260, 270, 280. And so linemen are extremely hard to kind of pinpoint at an early age. You do have some that come along, and Paris Johnson, the tackle from Ohio State that went to the Arizona Cardinals, he was 6'5", 260 as a freshman. So he had it going on. But for the most part, believe it or not, quarterbacks is kind of the easiest position to see that, hey, this guy's going to be Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, in that mold. Because if you can spin it at that age, you're just going to continue to get a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger, a little bit faster. All those guys had one thing in common: their IQ and pre-snap reads were unbelievable. And I think camps and specified quarterback training help that. I mean, for us, we've been in camps where we have a 7th grade quarterback get up on the blackboard and smoke half the high school quarterbacks in the country on pre-snap reads and what coverage is the defense in. That's a huge advantage pre-snap. Davis Mills, the backup for the Houston Texans, I think he just signed the largest backup deal in the NFL. He'll hang around the NFL holding a clipboard for 15 years because of this quarterback IQ.
So you actually brought up something I kind of wanted to follow it up. It was really awesome hearing you talk about quarterbacks. And what I thought you were going to say wasn't what you said, because you were talking about, well, they can spin it, they can read the board. What's interesting to me is you watch some of the prominent people on the pro side, and all they seem to want to talk about is that athleticism, that escapability, that mobility in the pocket. Do you look for that, or is it really, are you dialed in on the actual positional playing the quarterback, reading the defense, making the throws?
No, I mean, Matt, the game has changed, right? I mean, but you're not going to get away. I say this all the time. I mean, I don't know that if Brady and Manning are probably bad examples, but I don't know if the Matt Ryan coming through nowadays can sit in the pocket and not be able to get out is the way the defensive ends are just, God, they're so fast. I mean, we never heard of 3-4 guys, right? We never heard of a guy putting his hand in the ground, standing up and dropping into coverage and everything. And then all of a sudden, these hybrid 3-4 guys and edge guys started wrecking havoc. And you can't stand in the pocket like that anymore. And so you better have a little bit of a escapability. I think Kyler Murray started the wave with, somebody his height that you would have never even looked at. You'd have been like, this guy's 5'11", 6 foot when he was in high school. I mean, I'm just not going to take a chance on him. Not going to be able to see over the lineman. Well, now we know you don't have to see over the lineman. You create space. The gun's big. Very rarely is a quarterback up under center taking the snap. He can roll. He can create his own lane and stuff. So you didn't need to have it. And so that it kind of changed. That you better, from a quarterback position, you better be an athlete. And that's why when Lamar came around, we're like, okay, this kid's in Miami. He's doing some special stuff. He's a high 3-star, low 4-star. We weren't looking at him for the game. Probably should have been. But we're like, man, is he going to change the game? And, then he got to Louisville, had that crazy freshman year, had a sophomore year. And then that's when we were like, from a selection committee, we're like, we might want to find quarterbacks that are a little bit more athletic than your standard 6'4", 6'5", drop back in the pocket and can't move type quarterback. Because eventually you got to get away now. You can't, the rush is so good. D linemen are so much better than what they were. Linebackers are so much better than what they were. I contributed to speed training. I mean, these guys, they train now, and everybody takes a 10th off their 40 from the time they're a freshman in college to their pro day. So, it's the game's changed and evaluating quarterbacks has changed too. I think the biggest thing that's changed, Matt, is don't be scared of that 6'1" guy anymore, because he can play. And Drew Brees helped a little bit on that. He was a freaky athletic. People don't understand how athletic Trevor Lawrence is at 6'5". I mean, this dude can move the chains. If you remember him at Clemson, if you watch him in the NFL today, he can take off and get you 10 yards. But on the basketball court, he could take off from the free throw line, slam it. I mean, he was an athletic, big, tall, lanky 6'5" guy. It helped him get draft number 1. People don't realize you don't want to race Caleb Williams in a foot race. I mean, the dude is legitimately, him and Justin Fields are 4'3", low 4'4" guys. I mean, that's dangerous to have at quarterback. So long story short is it's definitely changed. I mean, I don't think you would see the journeyman 6'4", 6'5" quarterback be able to make it. And then look at your journeymen now. Who are they? Tyrod Taylor, Teddy Bridgewater, these guys that are staying around that can escape if they need to. And those are your journeymen now. And it used to be the 6'5", June Jones, right?
Yeah, you kind of answered the one question we had, but another one we had was about, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit as well, but players that play like both sides of the ball, play different sports. Is that taken into account a lot when you're looking at these guys? Should they be multi-sport athletes? Should they be playing on both sides of the ball? What does that look like when you're talking about it?
Well, listen, I think the best guys 3 years later in college that are at pro day, if you go and look, if they played multi sports. I mean, Tristan Wirfs was a hell of a basketball player. It's no, to me, when I turn on the TV and they're talking about Tristan Wirfs as a pro bowler and he's so athletic and everything else, well, man, I was watching this guy in basketball gyms just throw it down. It's so valuable to be a multi-sport guy. And that could be basketball. It could be track. It could be baseball. Heck, you might even get lucky and somebody did, lacrosse or soccer, right? Because it just trains different muscles and everything like that. I think in today's society, it's very easy for these athletes to say, I'm going to play football and then I'm going to go to my 7-on-7 team in January and I'm just going to do 7-on-7. And, listen, I'm not here to bash 7-on-7. It's extremely, I love going to 7-on-7, the big tournaments, because I can see everybody in one spot and I don't have to get in a car and drive to this high school and get in a car an hour more, drive to that high school, get in a car and again, drive an hour there. I can see everybody in one spot. So I'm, from a selfish standpoint, I'm glad 7-on-7's there and everything else, but it's not a true reflection of the 11-on-11 game at all. And so you got to be careful on how much you participate, and you would benefit more if you want to play pro ball. If you want to, if your high schooler is looking at, hey, I'm a 3-star athlete, low 4-star, and I think I got a chance to play in the NFL if I go have a good college career. Picking up that second sport is huge because it's going to train different muscles that you haven't used.
So one of the things that Ryan and I talk a lot about is we believe that there are certain prerequisites. For instance, if I'm scouting a player, Kyler Murray is unique among unique people. But I've gone on the record, if you stand at the height line and you're 5 anything, I'm like, nope, off my board. So our question for you is, are there any real hard line, do not pass go, measurements, weights, standards that you look at when you're scouting that you just use as a hard cut line?
Yeah, I mean, I think at O-line, I mean, you can't take, I mean, unless I don't know, I hadn't seen it. Is there a 6'1.5", 6'2" O-lineman in the NFL? Not center. I don't think so. I mean, I think at O-line, you can't, be at that 6'2" spot. I think at receiver now with Rondale Moore and oh God, what's the kid with the Giants? Wan'Dale Robinson and Zach Branch. It's at Georgia now. You cannot, at receiver in that slot. I mean, I'll take a 5'3", 5'5" guy, because you're not going to be able to get it. And these guys like Branch and Robinson and Moore that are all 5'8" have proven that, hey, we can play at this level because you can't cover me in the slot now. Offenses have changed now where they're spreading you out and they're going to get those guys spaces. It's not the day of lining a fullback, a tailback up and 2 tight ends, and you're trying to get that guy space. There was no space. So now with spreading the field and spreading the defense, you've created space. I would say outside of O-line, probably not. I mean, there's you're not going to make a habit of going and finding 5'10", 5'9" linebackers. But if a guy's 5'11", 6 foot and can run, what's much more important, Matt, is you got to be able to run. Each level you get up, you got to be able to run a little more and a little more. I can't tell you how many high school coaches call me and or parents and want me to come look at an athlete, and they're a thumper. I mean, they will not, from C gap to C gap, you better not run through there. And, and they're thumping and everything else. But if you can't if you don't have the speed to play, because it is such a jump from, high school to elite high school ball, when you start talking, some of these regions that the top 25 teams are in, DeSoto and Duncanville, and go out to the Trinity League, and you got Bosco and Mater Dei and Sierra Canyon and Santa Margarita, and then you go to Georgia, and you got Valdosta Lowndes and Colquitt and Camden down there, and some of these regions of football. It's a big jump from just your regular old standard, level AA high school team and stuff. And so each jump you make, it is that's why those players succeed more, because they're already playing at a high level speed. All right. So each level you add, but that's just the speed thing is one thing you can't cover up. It's much more than size. There's not there, but you got to be able to run to play every level you go up. You got to be able to run. And I've seen a lot of good 6'2" linebackers that can't get from sideline to sideline. And that's why they'll end up at a lower level college. Now, listen, that's not a bad thing. You can get a degree. Hell, now you can get some money. You can get some NIL money while you're at that school. Every school has this. We used to have all these fights for quarterbacks. I want to be in the top 5. I was like, why? Every college out there is paying $1 million for a quarterback. Everybody's got a billionaire, alumnus booster, and the going price is $1 million. It doesn't matter whether you play at UNLV or you're playing at Vanderbilt. There's not much difference in the pay. So, landing at a lower school or whatever, or a mid-major or a group 4, there's no shame in that. But if you can't run, you're probably going to drop down to a FCS Division I AA or Division II school. That's the difference. Those guys at Division I can run. The guys at FCS are a little bit slower.
So just a quick follow-up on that. If I'm training and I'm trying to find out where I'm at in comparison, are we talking 4.5 to 5.40? Are we talking 4.4 to 4.5? Do you have a metric that you look at? If I'm trying, I'm 40 something, but if I'm trying to get somewhere, what's a good target for me to aim at?
Well, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to get one thing out there. I've had high school coaches call me right here and say, Coach, you got to come. We got 10 guys on the team that are running sub 4.4s. Really? Okay. At the National Combine, we hold the National Combine, 600 of the top underclassmen in the country come in the day before the All-American game and do a National Combine with laser testing, not handheld coaching testing. If you go to a combine and they're holding a combine and they're not using laser equipment, don't waste your time, because no colleges are accepting that particular combine info. Just get back in your car and forgo your $40 and just go somewhere else if it's not laser timed and laser measured, whether it's broad jump, high jump, whatever, vertical, whatever, shuttle, 3-cone. It's all got to be on laser. But back to my point, I've had high school coaches call me and tell me they have 8 to 10 guys that are running sub 4.4s at their high school. When we run the 40 down at the Alamo Dome out of 600 kids, I've never seen more than 10 sub 4.4s out of that. It's just not in a makeup of a high school kid. So, when kids are telling you they're running 4.4, the chances are they aren't. There's more realistically a time in high school, a good time in high school is 4.6. And then when you get to college, it's 4.5. Look at the NFL draft, the NFL combine. I think they only had 22 sub 4.4s out of 300 of the best players going into the draft. And so for high schoolers to think, oh man, I don't run a 4.4. I'm not a good time in high school is 4.6 for your skill guys getting into the 4.5s. If you're a receiver, a DP and stuff. But, there's very few people, unless it's a track guy that's just happen to be playing football that run a 4.40 in high school. You just don't see it.
All right. Well, I want to get into a little bit about the actual U.S. Navy All-American game because it's such just a unique, cool thing that kids get to see. The last report I saw said there are approximately like 1.03 million high school football players each year. How on earth do you all get that down to the number that you need? Like, I think you take the top 100, right?
Yeah, top 100, and then Under Armour gets 100. So out of that 1.3, now you got to figure 1.3. There's probably 250 to 300,000 seniors, right?
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit easier. But I have fun all the time when I run into NFL scouting department guys, and I go, man, your job's easy. It's already weeded down for you, to the top 300 to 400 players are going to get drafted, right? And stuff. And you just got to pick the right one out of the 300 or 400. I mean, my selection committee has to get it right out of 300,000. And the tough thing becomes, you got a running back in Massachusetts that has 3,000 yards in his junior year and 36 touchdowns. And you got a running back in Florida or Georgia that has 850 yards and 10 touchdowns. Now, convenience wisdom would say, well, surely take the guy that ran for the 3,000 yards. But you can't do that. I mean, you got to look at it and you got to measure it up, and you got to see, who's going to be that prototypical type pro back, 5'11", 215 to 220, can stick his foot in the ground and cut and everything like that. So it's definitely tough. And I'm not saying we get them all right, but we have a system that we feel like on draft night. I mean, when we sit there and get out of 32 picks, we get 18 to 20 where our guys, some of them 4 years ago, that's pretty darn good. Because I can guarantee you this, 18 of those NFL teams ain't going to hit on their first pick. It just doesn't happen and everything. And so, it's definitely harder. I have a much respect. I don't know. I'll give you a few names out there that you guys have probably heard of. Barton Simmons, now the general manager of Vanderbilt Commodores football. The absolute best I've seen in this business if you give that guy a pen and piece of paper and a film and say, hey, Barton, go evaluate these guys for me. He's the one that took a chance on Christian McCaffrey. He's the one that took a chance on Sam Darnold. I mean, and those are just two names. He just kept getting them and getting them and getting them. So it's no surprise to me that they've got him and Clark got Vanderbilt turned around. He's extremely good. Rusty Mansell has a great eye for running backs. He called me one year. Todd Gurley was a senior. Todd had been hurt his junior year, so he didn't have a lot of stats. He played in the bowels of North Carolina. I mean, he wasn't in Charlotte, way out in the country. And he called me and he said, hey, I'm up at this game in North Carolina. And this kid, he's grown and he's tearing it up. You might want to take a look at him. It was Todd Gurley. And so Rusty Mansell's a good one. Brandon Huffman is extremely good with 247 Sports. Chad Simmons from On3 has a great eye for talent. So there's some good ones out there that if I ever had the ability to go own an NFL team or work for an NFL team as a general manager, I'd bring guys like that in because they're just as good as what I see, in draft parties. And that's no slight at, these guys that are in there for the NFL teams or anything. Hey, all glory to them. They were in the right place at the right time, and they got a hard job. But I would swap their job for mine anytime, picking a needle in a haystack out of 350 to 400 players as opposed to 300,000. Hope that answered that, Ryan.
No, it did. Quick follow-up. You talked a little bit about like your committee, like the staff that actually does the scouting. How many people are we talking there? Like what kind of staff do you have?
Well, on the selection committee, we have 8 of us, and to keep it smart. But outside of that, we're partnered with 24/7 Sports, who has people on the ground in every region, right? I mean, I think they got 6 guys in Texas, 3 in Georgia, 3 in Florida. Andrew Ivins is another good one that gets out and sees people. Steve Wilfong, that was with 24/7 Sports for a while. He's now with On3, was a good one. But we use 24/7 Sports because they got so many legs on the ground. And if we want to see a kid, we'll send them to a game, assign them to a game, because our 3 rules of thumb are seeing them on film, seeing them in camp in person. That's huge to see them on the hook in person at a camp, and then see them in person and play. And I mean, huddle is so misleading. And that's not, I mean, listen, I'm glad huddle's out there. I used to have to go through DVDs and watch the whole game before a huddle. And so huddle, again, but if you like what you see on huddle as a recruiter and scouter, because I can guarantee you colleges do it, you're watching that whole game. Because if this was your 8th place in the game, what'd you do the other 54? That's what I want to see. I know you're going to put your best 8 on there. Let me see what you did the other 54. Did you take them off? Did you win half the reps and lose half the reps? Did you hustle, outside did you hustle when the ball was backside and everything? So that's generally speaking what you do, but you need to see those 3 things. You got to, we all, before a kid comes on the deal, either one of us out of the, selection committee or our extended guys on the ground have seen him in person, seen him at a camp, and seen his film. It got to check 3 boxes.
Okay. Let's see here. Last one really about the game, and then we'll get into some advice for like family and stuff. But the alumni list for this game is kind of absurd. I went and did my research, went through, I saw the names like, Ezekiel Elliott, Odell Beckham Jr., Andrew Luck, DeMarco Murray, all like just this insane list of players.
I'm going to try to get you over here to my wall.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just absurd. So
I'm gonna get up and just give you some names. You always hold that thought right there, right? These are just like recent names, right? Stephon Diggs, Najee Harris, Trevor Lawrence, James Cook, Keenan Allen, Ezekiel Elliott, Patrick Surtain, probably the best defensive back. DK Metcalf, Andrew Thomas, left tackle from the Giants, Tua, Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Baltimore, Amon St. Brown, who, God, man, can you believe this guy lasted the 4th round? How crazy was that? Garrett Wilson. And, then you go on, Jalen Ramsey, Mark Andrews. And then you look at the history down the street, Ted Ginn Jr., Tim Tebow, Adrian Peterson, Reggie Bush, Sammy Watkins, Andrew Luck, and stuff. So, yeah, it's been a lot come through the game. And we're proud of that. We're proud of that that alumni history.
Yeah, so my question with that is, I mean, that says a lot about the effectiveness of the scouting department. So can you speak a little bit about what you think has led to that success?
I mean, I think it's getting, good people on. I hear that's a great question, because in this business, you get hit up like, hey, take this kid, do me a favor, take this kid and stuff. And sometimes you got to be brutally honest with the coach, with the parent, with the handler and everything. And you can't just take every kid. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, some of my people have been offered money for a spot, particularly when before NIL came, and going from a 4-star and coming down to San Antonio and getting your 5th star, which you guys know how many 5 stars there is, right?
I don't know.
Each recruiting cycle, how many 5 stars there are. Matt, putting you on the spot.
I believe that number is no more than 10.
32. Do you know why what else is 32?
The first round.
Only 32 5 stars per year. It doesn't matter which service, whether it's Rivals, On3, 247, ESPN. There's only 32 5 stars given out a year. So a lot of times what guys were doing in the previous years, if you could come down and bump yourself from a 4-star to a 5-star, now what's it doing? We had a quarterback come last year. He was a 3-star. We saw something in him out of Houston. His name was Keyshawn Henderson. He was committed to Houston. They have a big booster there by the name of Tillman Fertitta. So he came to the game last year, put on a show, won MVP. His NIL money went from $500,000 to close to $6 million for Houston to hold on to him. So back to what, we get offered, stuff. Hey, we'll get you this kid. If you'll take my 3-star, we'll get you the 4-star and stuff. And sometimes you got to say, hey, is a juice worth the squeeze? I mean, and everything. And, you got to do the best you can do of saying, where's this guy going to be at in 3 or 4 years? Then you got to combo up, Ryan. Is this guy going to embarrass me down here? Is he going to have girls up in the hotel room that he, called escorts? And now they got money. I mean, the first day I was like, man, this is different. I used to go to lunch and, the bill would be $25 and I'd pull out $12.50 and make the player pull out $12.50 because, that was his share of the bill. I went to lunch 2.5 years ago with Julian Lewis, the quarterback at Colorado. He pulled up in a Lamborghini. You're buying lunch, Julian. I mean, I'm not, you're buying lunch. I'm not pulling out my $12.50 anymore. So it's, the NIL's changed. And it's, I'm not going to get into whether it's for the good of game or anything like that. I believe that, I raised Sony Michel and Nick Chubb, and I had to take them meal money up to Georgia at times because they didn't have anything. Trevor Lawrence, I was with Trevor one time. This is a great story. I was with Trevor one time in the bookstore his freshman year. He had on a pair of hush puppies that looked like his toe was going to hang out of them. And we were in the bookstore, and there was a lady in front of us buying every one of his jerseys. She bought a white one, an orange one, and a purple one. Authentic jersey, lettered up, everything for, I think they were $220 a piece. And this guy didn't have $20 in his pocket his freshman year. Can you imagine what Trevor Lawrence would be worth coming out of high school right now? Going to Clemson?
No.
It'd be 6 to 8 million. What Faison Brandon's getting, what Ryder Lyons is getting, what the Jared Curtis is going to get, what these good quarterbacks are getting. And that's how quick it changed. Trevor wasn't there very long ago. So anyway, long story short is, we try to do good. We get judged by our superiors at NBC on, hey, how many of these guys get their name called on draft night 3 to 4 years ago? I think I stopped and talked to you about Amon St. Brown. He was the most freaky receiver I'd seen out of all these guys. DK Metcalf, Odell Beckham, anybody I'd had down there, nobody could cover Amon-Ra. And I'm like, okay, he goes to USC. And at the time they were a little bit down and, he wasn't showcased at all, but still the talent was there. And he first round, second round, third round, fourth round. I'm like, man, somebody's going to get a steal here. You see, he may be the best receiver in the league right now.
Yeah.
So I just had a brief follow-up question. You mentioned you only get 32 5-stars. How does that happen? Do you have like a meeting? Is there like a process? How does your group work with other agencies to award that 5th star to those 32 people?
Well, I'm not in the rankings business. I leave that up to the guys at 247, Rivals, used to be Scout, ESPN, Craig Hobart and Billy Tucker do a great job of that. Generally speaking, what they'll do, Matt, they'll be at 10 5-stars going into that guy's senior year. And then they kind of let it battle out, probably increase to 15 during the season. And then after the 2 big All-American showcases, whether it's the Under Armour game or our game, then they'll have a final rankings. And that's when they'll say, okay, we've got 17 5-stars left, picking out from these 400 4-stars or these 3,000 3-stars. Because I've seen a Jordan Hall got a bump from 3-star, the defensive tackle from Georgia, got a bump from 3-star, went out and had a monster performance in the All-American game, great senior season. He was a 5-star by the end of the cycle, which helped add a 0 to his NIL deal. But I leave it up to those guys, and they're pretty good at what they do. They get a lot of, but when they miss, everybody, these rankings, these rankings and stars don't mean anything. But you go back and look at the Myles Garrett was a 5-star, number 1 overall player in the country, pick number 1. He's been in the league for what now, 8, 9, 10 years, and they're pretty good. These guys are pretty good.
Yeah. So I want to get in a little bit about the advice for like parents and coaches. So I looked a little bit about you. I know you're a parent. I believe you're a grandfather.
Thanks, appreciate it. 7 times over, Ryan.
Yeah. So I'm sure you know the feeling of wanting to put your kids in the best position to succeed. So what do you say to the parents of young football players who don't really know how to set their kids up for success in this sport? Maybe don't have the experience. Where do they start? What should they do?
I think having a plan is the very, very first thing. Like you in the off season, you could do something every weekend in every town. You can do a camp, combine, showcase, 7-on-7 tournament. And if you're out there spinning your wheels every weekend doing that, you're probably going to go backwards. Your kid's grades are probably going to suffer. He's not doing a second sport, which we talked about. He's not getting to be a kid, right? I mean, I've seen a kid leave in January and do a camp every weekend or a 7-on-7 tournament, and then go back to school August 1st, and they'll be like, "What'd you do this summer?" "Well, I went to football camps." Wow. And stuff. And so that's not healthy or good. I think having a plan, writing it down at the end of the season, whether your season ends in November, December, and saying, okay, if we're going to participate on a 7-on-7 team, how many tournaments does this 7-on-7 team committed to? Are they doing 1 a month, which is a great number? It's probably going to be 5, 6 tournaments by the end of the season. Or are they doing 1 every other weekend, which all of a sudden turns into 12, 13 because they picked up one they didn't know they were going to, and then they qualify for nationals and everything. So having a plan. I also think for the sophomores and juniors is don't go to a Georgia camp or an Auburn camp or an Alabama camp when you're not that level of a player. Nothing wrong with going to Kennesaw State or Mercer or UAB, FIU, FAU. If that's what level player you are, go get in front of those coaches at their camp. Don't be, it's great to be, if you're a mom and dad were a fan of the school and to go to a camp, and some of them have them, in the stadium, and there's 600 kids there and they're on this field, and it's like, but the 3 that Kirby's going to offer, they ain't on the field in the camp. They've already been told to pack up their gear, get upstairs and talk to the coach, because we're going to try to sell you on why you should come here. And then the rest is, for lack of a better word, might be a cattle call, right? So, if you gotta target what level player you are. Where can you find out what level player you are? There's enough camps, whether it's FBU, whether it's MVP, whether it's one of the best camps out there. It's not mine. It's UC Report, Underclassmen Report. If you get an invite to that camp, go do it. Go to UC, because they're going to tell you exactly where you're at level wise, and where you should be going. Then you can look at schools and say, hey, coach, we want to come camp with you this summer. And the coach knows you're interested, and you're not over at Auburn or Florida with 600 people, and 597 of them aren't going to play there.
Yeah. A little bit more, I guess, targeted with that then. There's all these different leagues, all these different commissioners, coaches. I actually am an 8U coach right now. It wasn't planned, but I am. What do you tell all of these local places? What do you tell them that are to do best by their kids? How do they do that?
Well, I mean, I think, listen, I ran what I would probably consider the most competitive youth league in the country, in the GFL. And I think if you look back and see the national championships they've won over the last 15 years, you'd be hard to dispute that. Now, they're not a travel team like the IE Ducks or the Maryland Heat or Vegas Strong or anything, but for true feeder programs that are feeding into high school, it might be the most competitive football out there. I have, 8-year-old and 10-year-old staffs that wear headsets during the game. They got somebody in the box, and they've scouted their opponent and everything else. All that's fine and that's great, but the real reason you should be doing youth football, if you live in a community, is to feed that particular high school program as many kids as you can possibly can. Because I can't tell you, Derek Brown was a Division II player for us. When I say Derek Brown, he's defensive tackle with Carolina Panthers now, perennial Pro Bowler, was an All-American at Auburn. He was a Division II player in the 8th grade. What I mean by Division II is they had tryouts. They took 40 players on the Division I team, and the other 40 were on the Division II team. Derek Brown was a Division II player in the 8th grade. So if you don't make it fun, or if Derek Brown had sit on the bench as on the Division I team and not played, hell, he may have walked away from football his freshman or sophomore year and said, this ain't fun and everything. So I think what we should be challenging youth coaches to do, Ryan, is nobody cares at the end of the thing how many wins and losses you had at the end of your coaching career. What they do care about is that you can walk to the grocery store and that guy, man, I coached him and now he's a successful mechanic over at the Mercedes-Benz dealership, or he's an IT guy for, Amazon. That's far more rewarding to me. I coached in the GFL for 24 years, and it was far more rewarding for me to see somebody I'd coached become a successful dad and husband and a pillar in the community, and then be out there coaching again so that it carries on, than it was to have a guy play in the NFL. I mean, it was far more. So I think some of the videos out there, I mean, really scare me when we get pit bulls on pit bulls. Like, my pit bulls are going to fight your pit bulls, and we're going to talk and we're going to do all this John and stuff. It's not what youth football is about. Youth football is the greatest sport out there. And it'll, if a guy never plays another down past 8th grade, but he has that youth football base, he will normally win when it comes time to compete for a job. He'll normally win when it comes time to compete, to go get that meal money to feed his family and stuff. The traits are huge. And if we can just remember that as youth coaches, do not get caught up in the scores and the wins and losses and going to the playoffs and everything else. I consider, I had somewhere in the neighborhood of 220 teams at GFL, 220 coaches. I told coaches all the time, if you were 0-8, but you had 25 kids and 25 came back or 23 came back the next year, you were a successful coach. You're going to coach again in my league because you did the things that those parents and those players had a great time. I also see, and this is not to get on a soapbox, but the biggest weakness in youth football is unproductive practices. I can't tell you how many practices I've been to in youth leagues, and I get paid to come consult some in leagues that have me. And this was, I'll tell you, the league that had me out. Snoop Dogg had me out. Got to meet him through DeAnthony Thomas, and we became great friends. And he said, Eric, please come help my leagues, help them practice, because what a practice would look like. And I said, Snoop, I'll come. Here's my fee. But you can't tell them I'm coming. And so I would stand back or in a press box or up on a hill or something. And I would just watch. In 70 to 80% of those practices, this is what would happen. We'd run a lap. We'd do some type of warm up. And then the coach would holler across the field at another coach that was coaching another team. Hey, coach, ready to bang heads? You want to scrimmage? Want to scrimmage? Now, the average size football team in the youth football is 25 players. Some are 30. I've seen 40 players on a team. What happens when you go scrimmage another team? 11 players play, and 17 players are sitting on the sideline grab-assing, right? And some poor coach is over there with them trying to keep them, have busy. And what does he do? He gets frustrated because they're wrestling around and everything else. So he sends them on a lap. Now we've got cross country going on, right? I mean, kids running laps. He might as well have just signed up for cross country. You don't have to you can run without the helmet and shoulder pads. Heck of a lot more comfortable. And so the biggest thing I see is unproductive practices. It's why I, started a consulting business of going in and teaching coaches. You got in that most practices are an hour and a half. Some leagues have 2 hours, but most practices are an hour and a half, particularly when you get into the school, right? Most leagues only allow you to practice 3 times a week because you got to have Wednesday off, whether it's for churches or whatever, and then Friday in most of the country is spent on varsity football. And then you play your game on Saturday. So you really only got 4.5 hours a week to have these athletes. You better get the most out of those 4.5 you can for every player there. And so we came up with a system where every player, and we taught it in the GFL, where every player gets a rep every 40 seconds. We don't care what you're doing. So and I'm not saying scrimmaging is bad, but if you're scrimmaging, my offense, number one, is going to go against your number one offense, and my defense, my offense number two. I'm going to put together offense number two. They're going against your defense number two. And I'm going to have half my coaches here and half my coaches there. And we're going. So now we've doubled our participation, and we're subbing players in, just like a game. Every 2 plays, you're coming in at guard, Johnny. Jackie, you're going out, and stuff. And I think it's important at the youth football age to get as many reps at practice as you can, have as many returning players as you can at the end of the season, and don't get caught up in the scoreboard of the wins and losses.
I love that. Was such a wonderful answer. But Matt, you got any other questions before we start to wrap this up a little bit?
So I just had one selfish question. You mentioned something a while back, and I just wanted to go back and get your side of the story, because I think my first All-Star game ever, I watched this running back, and he ran all over the place. And I called my brother. I'm like, dude, this guy is going to be a monster. He's like, he's a high school kid. I'm like, you don't understand. He's going to be amazing. And that person went to Oklahoma and was dominant as a freshman. And I called my brother again. I'm like, you remember that guy I told you about? I'm not joking. That was Adrian Peterson. Could you spare a minute just to talk about what got you into recruiting him and what you saw on your end?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, he had a prolific high school career at Palestine High out of Texas. I mean, he was good. I'll give you 2 examples. If you can get the edge down there that week, so on a toss sweep, if you can get the edge and turn the corner against that kind of talent, you're going to be good. He did it, and another guy named Derrick Henry did it. And I said, at that point, I said, both, Derrick Henry, which is a little more recent, because we didn't know. I mean, if you know the high school that Derrick Henry went to, it's Yulee. It's in between Jacksonville and Georgia. It's a 1 stoplight town. They play a 1 stoplight schedule. So Derrick Henry's high school tape, he was running. It looked like Arch Manning's. He was running over 5'6" kids and 5'7" kids, and running away from 5'7" white kids and everything. So when he gets down there, let me see what you do now. And Peterson did it. And there's been others that did it, but these 2 did it at a high level, and probably why they're 2 of the top 10 running backs ever in the NFL, right? Peterson and Derrick Henry did it down there. Devontae Smith. Not many people knew about Devontae Smith in high school. He was from a real small town in Louisiana, and all of a sudden he was making play after play after play on a lot of guys. And I'm like, this guy might be something special. He's pretty special.
Yeah, well, hey, we really appreciate your time. I wanted to give you a chance. Football University does a lot. I read, you've developed more than 100,000 athletes since 2007. So we wanted to give you a chance. Like, give us your PSA. Convince people why they should look into FBU for their kids.
Oh, listen, we try. We got 2 major properties. We have our camp season, which runs in the spring. We're in 20 different cities. So if we're a city close to you, give us a try. We're generally there on a Saturday afternoon. Our camps run from 8 to 2. It'll be the best $100 you spend. Our other big property, and what we got into the middle school all-star think of the Little League World Series meets March Madness. Well, we're in 40 different cities at 3 different grade levels. We play a first round and a second round at 8 different regional sites, and those 8 winners come down to Naples in late December and play for what we true national championship. It allows it's not Pop Warner or AYF; those are teams that go to those tournaments. We are all-star based, so if you have an association, you can put together the best players out of that association and come play in that. We're in our 15th year of it now, and we crown a champion at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It's where we found a lot of people don't realize 80% of the football out there played is independent leagues. It's not AYF and Pop Warner. Those are great leagues. I'm not slamming them or anything, but there's a lot of independent schools, particularly when you associations, when you get outside to Texas and the Midwest, where middle school ball is so heavy, and those kids don't play AYF or Pop Warner. So there's a lot of and those kids. The reason we started the tournament, Ryan, was those kids don't get a chance to go to Disney and play for the AYF championship or the Pop Warner championship. And so it's we find some good players in that tournament that aren't involved in Pop Warner or AYF leagues and everything. But if you're not in AYF or Pop Warner league and you're looking and you have a good player, visit our website. We have tryouts going on in 40 different cities. 40 different cities across the country. We're covered in most every market. And so, they have tryouts running through November for that team, and you'll see where your kid measures up real quick. A lot of the problems with youth stars is they might be on a team where they don't get challenged all season long in practice, right? Particularly if you're at the 7th or 8th grade level and you got a really good lineman, and you just can't find an opponent for him during practice, and stuff. Well, you'll find an opponent in this tournament. I can guarantee you that.
Well, hey, we really do appreciate your time. It was wonderful talking with you, and we really hope that this can help some parents, some young athletes out there. And Matt, unless there's anything you got, I think we'll call it a day.
Dude, it was an honor just sitting here. I love talking ball. I love listening to people who know the game. I sat here for 57 minutes and I feel like I'm 1,000 times smarter than I was before I sat down. So thank you for your time. It's a lot of wisdom to take on, and you made us better, and hopefully you'll make our audience better too.
Well, like I said to start with, I was hoping to give you one thing. Maybe I gave you 2, Matt. But I'd love to get you guys down to San Antonio. We got some sideline passes for you. So if you're down there for the game anytime, y'all holler at me. We'll get you on the sideline and you can see it up close.
Hey, Matt's a former sailor himself. I know you're a corporal. Yeah, I saw that in your bio.
Hey, he got me where I needed to go.
Over here. Yeah, so yeah, again, appreciate your time, and thank you for coming out.
All right, we'll see you guys. Y'all take care.